Okay, and if someone gets on, we can add them as they join.
Oh, I'm trying to move, sorry. There we go.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Smith. I am chairperson of the Webster Groves Plan Commission. We are a 9-member board of citizens appointed by the city council to review development proposals and make recommendations to the city council regarding future development of the city. In addition to the members of the Plan Commission participating in person or via teleconference, we have a few other representatives of the city I would like to introduce. Council member Alexander. City attorney, this is an old script. City attorney Peter Bruntrager, planning and development director Mara Perry, and Denise Valesky, our recording secretary. I would like to welcome you all to tonight's monthly meeting of the commission and take this opportunity to explain how we operate. As indicated in our agenda, we will begin the regular session of the meeting when we will hear new applications for rezoning or subdivisions. We will hear a staff report and the applicant will explain the proposal. We will then ask for comments from the public. At that time, anyone with an interest in the proposal may indicate to city staff they have a question or would like to express their opinion by clicking on the raise hand feature in Zoom. To make sure that we accurately record your name, we ask that you identify your full name and address at the beginning of your comment. When you make your comments, we ask that you be as concise as possible and not repeat a point made by previous speaker. We also ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. One person who is a spokesperson for an organization may have 6 minutes to comment. After all citizens have spoken, the applicant will be asked to respond to any questions that have been raised during the hearing. When we have finished reviewing one proposal, we will move on to the next application. Comments concerning items not on the agenda should be made during the public comment section of the agenda near the beginning of the meeting. When you have completed the regular portion of the agenda, we will go into executive session. At that time, the commission will discuss the proposal and may decide to vote on the application or to postpone the decision. You are welcome to remain and listen to the discussion, but there will be no additional opportunity for public comment at that time. Our recommendations are sent to the city council. In most cases, the city council will conduct a similar hearing and must enact an ordinance before the proposal is finally approved. If the Plan Commission takes a vote tonight, the city council will likely take up this issue at its first meeting next month. If you want information regarding our vote or the progress of the application, you may contact staff at City Hall. I would ask that the secretary read the first item for tonight's regular meeting.
Approval of minutes, June 5, 2023.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from June.
All right, do I have a second?
Okay.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next item. Is anyone here or on Zoom that wishes to make a comment on items not on tonight's agenda?
No.
Okay, next.
For public hearing, 23 PC 09 Webster Groves Presbyterian Church Shared Space Initiative, 45 West Lockwood Avenue, an application by Webster Groves Presbyterian Church for a conditional use permit to allow for shared spaces within an existing building for multiple tenants operating under educational facility, school for the arts uses located on a 1.67 acre lot at 45 West Lockwood Avenue in the D Commercial District.
So, good evening, Mara Perry, Director of Planning and Development for this city. This one's going to be very familiar to a lot of you on the Plan Commission because just a couple months ago, we did have a CUP for this location. Just note, I had been working with the church. They weren't ready yet to apply for what we're doing tonight. But we had a conversation that it would be beneficial for them to create a shared space instead of coming in for a CUP every time an individual small not-for-profit or arts organization wanted to go into the building, that we could do a more overarching shared space. It just wasn't ready to come to you when you saw your last CUP a couple months ago. So we have before you the CUP now for what they're calling the Shared Space Initiative. So I'm going to go through all the different elements of the CUP. I can hopefully answer some questions, and we also have someone available to answer additional questions if I am unable. So you have before you this evening this CUP. The property is outlined it in red on your slide. The surrounding uses are D Commercial District. To the east, our map's a little bit of out of date, but to the east is a PC planned commercial district. So on most sides, it's Zone D. The church itself is also Zone D with a CUP for the church. The existing conditions, the photo to your left is a photo from Lockwood, seeing the primary church building. The photo on the right is from the rear, which is Moody Avenue, looking at the building that is their educational building, which is where they are going to request the uses primarily for this CUP. I always like to go into the history of the property and the church. In this case, 1867, Webster Groves Presbyterian Church started. In 1923, this particular property was zoned E, Industrial District, and D, Commercial District, a combination of the two. In 1956, the entire property was rezoned to just D, Commercial District with our zoning ordinance that went into place in 56. In 1959 and 1961, they obtained special use permits, which we now call conditional use permits, to reconstruct and expand their facilities. Since 1962, the church has operated a daycare and early childhood care facilities at the subject property, also with a CUP. In 2021 and 2023, the church had started getting smaller, in this case, educational facilities for School for the Arts, requesting to go into their spaces. They also have had some not-for-profits and some other arts uses that have ended up not necessarily going with this particular facility, but other places in Webster. And as we started seeing these smaller ones coming in, it's a lot for them to come in and do a CUP for a small not-for-profit or for a small arts group. And it made the most sense for them to look more globally at their buildings, at how much space they might want to lease out to some of these smaller uses. Some of the uses are office uses only and not necessarily educational facilities. Those smaller uses that are office only are able to come in with just a straight business license. For ones that provide classes or small group lessons or are something for the arts, most of those do need that CUP in the D district, mainly related to parking and traffic. So when we talked about this, we looked at the overarching, what they would need to do so that it could be the same for no matter what users come in for that space. They would all just get a business license over this larger arching CUP. Just a reminder, the comprehensive plan identifies this as a religious institution. Religious institutions then, and under this D district, there are multiple other CUPs that you can request. You also in the D district can have other uses. So if the back end of the building, which was an office use, if they wanted to put office users in, they would just get a business license and be able to operate in that D district. The CUP is needed for the religious institution. The CUP is required for other uses that might require other parking expanded. This use is not a change of zoning for the CUP, but we always try to look and say whether it is currently in compliance with the comprehensive plan, which it would be. As a reminder, under the conditional use permit, you are going to make a recommendation to the council, and under that recommendation, the council has to determine whether the use will not substantially increase traffic hazards or congestion, substantially increase fire hazards, adversely affect the character of the neighborhood, adversely affect the general welfare of the community, or overtax public utilities. The analysis that staff did of this use is that asking for educational facilities, School for the Arts use, is a use that could go within existing educational classroom spaces and the building that is attached to the rear of the church. The intention is to hold these activities within the second and third floor spaces. I did attach in the packet as well as on the PowerPoint, the two spaces you guys have previously approved for CUPs. that are currently operating Patterson Performing Arts and Different Dynamics, both using very small areas of the second and third floor. The proposal is to use approximately 5,274 square feet at its max of that building on the second and third floor for these various uses. In looking at parking, we looked at a combination of things. When you are doing an educational facility or spaces where teaching facilities are operating, it's one parking space for every 1,000 square feet. When you are doing something that's office related, so a not-for-profit or other arts use that wants to use some of their space for office uses only, it would be one parking space for every 300 square feet. So using that 5,274 square foot number, the zoning code will require somewhere between 6 at its very smallest and 18 at its largest number of parking spaces. The subject property currently has 92 off-street parking spaces. They're used for the church. They're used when they do have funerals and other events within the facility. They do have a number of different things that go on within the church, including the daycare. The property that we identified is just the main property of the church. The church also owns a parking lot to the north on the other side of Moody. That is leased out during the day for businesses within the business district. So businesses that might also operate within the church would have that flexibility to also use those spaces. Excuse me. The hours of operation that they're requesting would be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Just as a reminder, your previous two CUPs asked for pretty similar hours. They did ask also for Saturdays in the other two that had requested some very specific hours based on the uses that they were doing. There are no changes being made to the exterior of the structure, so we do not recommend any additional dimensional regulations, setbacks, or anything else because they do not plan to do any construction and they're using the existing building. Before I get to the recommendations, are there any questions of the Plan Commission? Yes.
What did you say about the Saturdays?
Oh, the previous CUPs did ask for some Saturday hours. The church itself did not ask for Saturday hours. We can always ask that conversation. I made the recommendation based on what the church had asked for, which was primarily Monday through Friday. I know a lot of churches try to not have other users during days where they might have services or other things related to the church.
So it's like that because they didn't ask for it.
They didn't ask for it.
So we'll have two operations in there with possible Saturdays and the remainder of this space.
At this point, yes, unless there's a change and unless anyone wants to make a change to the CUP request.
And the preschool's still in there.
They do still have a daycare in there.
Damn.
Any other questions?
Any of our
Anyone?
members
Yeah.
online?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go to recommendations. So this is very similar to our previous CUPs that we've approved. So the other ones would be able to operate essentially under most of this, but they do have their own CUPs, the two that were previously approved. So all provisions of the city code shall apply except as expressly modified in the CUP. All activities of the Educational Facility School for the Arts use shall be located within the existing structure of the subject property. Hours of operation shall be limited to Monday to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And the conditional use permit is personal to the applicant and shall not run with the land. So again, we focused on the educational facility because that's the CUP use. If they have other users going into the space that are just office users, they would just get a standard business license, just like these CUP users will, all these other users will now get business licenses.
No limit on the number of CUPs per parcel, is there?
So just to make you laugh, when we cleaned up the educational, when we created the new educational campus zoning, Webster University had 42 CUPs on their property.
Mhm.
And we cleaned that up. So no, there isn't a specific number, but we usually try to clean up if there's a CUP going in and the other one can be integrated. We usually repeal the previous CUPs. In this case, I didn't repeal the other two I figured we'd just leave them as they were and create this new one.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion?
One question. It says that they have up to 10 rooms available to be rented or dedicated. And you're not putting anything in the, recommendations for up to 10 spaces or anything like that?
I wasn't doing that. I know they based it on the square footage. We do a occupancy inspection, with the business license. So we would make sure or address that it falls within the same sort of general area and meets all the safety requirements. So we did not specify second floor, third floor, which we could.
Or number of tenants? or
Yeah,
anything
we
like
did
that?
not specify that.
Just as long as it falls within would have to fit within the parking and all that.
Has to
kind of
fit within the existing building and the parking.
stuff. Okay, I'm okay with that.
We do have, I'm gonna pass that down, in case there are questions, we have a representative from the church who is available.
Okay, Brian? Okay. Would you care to? Don't feel compelled, but yeah, would you, or you just?
No, it's very, this is the conditional use permitted on behalf of, we've, as Ms. Perry indicated, the two priors were held by the tenants, and this is consistent with the mission of the church to be outgoing and open to the community and to expand our footprint by inviting not-for-profits, arts groups, whatever, coming in. And because of the way, this group is called Different Dynamics. They're the ones that have, will be coming in and taking some space. We certainly have Karen Counseling had used to be in our space. That outfit is gone, but there are some individual counselors that are interested in using one or two rooms. So that's, again, consistent with our mission. So this would be a wonderful thing to have to kind of streamline the process from our perspective.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You want to close the public
Yeah.
hearing?
Motion to,
Motion to approve. I have a motion to approve the public hearing for a PC or
So,
23 PCO.
You want to close the
close.
hearing, we'll go to plats, then we'll go to executive session, and then you'll discuss.
Right. Close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I always get tripped up. I thought I was waiting
I
for
know, I
somebody
was
else.
like, yeah. Yes. Yeah, we gotta have this meeting tomorrow. The second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? I think that was everyone. Okay, next item.
5, plats and site plans, 2-3 PC 10 Grant Court lots 2-3 boundary adjustment plat, a petition by Matthew and Marina Snell, property owners of 617 Grant Court, and Anthony and Kimberly Alisi, property owners of 614 Grant Court, for an application for boundary adjustment plat to be known as Grant Court lots 2-3 boundary adjustment plat. The subject properties encompass approximately 0.696 acres of land. The subject properties are located within the A2 15,000 square foot residence district.
So I know we don't get very many plats, but when you get them, it's because there's something unusual about them that needs to be addressed, which means that it needs to go all the way to city council for a final approval of some. I hate to call them variances because it confuses people and they think you're acting like the Board of Adjustment, but it's variations to approval of a plat. So these two properties are located within a subdivision called Grant Court. The one property I have outlined in red and the other one in blue. They're surrounded on all sides by other A2 15,000 square foot residence district properties. To the west is the city of Crestwood. So it is a different municipality right on the outside of this particular subdivision. There is currently a single-family dwelling and detached garage at 617 Grant Court that was built in 1986. And there's currently a single-family dwelling with an attached garage at 614 Grant Court that was built in 1988. There's kind of an interesting history to this one, just because of the fact that it was approved in the 1980s. During the 80s, right before, for a certain period of time, the city of Webster Groves did not have a planning director. They consulted with a planning firm that would give letters of recommendation or questions or concerns as different items went before the agenda. So there was a letter from the consultant at the time about this particular plat when it went to the Plan Commission in 1986. It was noted in the minutes from 1986 that they needed to approve on the record that the lot widths were acceptable as shown in case there was any questions at a later date, which is where our questions at a later date came from. Because the plat was approved with not meeting the minimum width of lot at the front building line or the minimum width of average width of lot in some cases because of the shapes of some of these lots. But it was approved by the City Council June 3rd, 1986 via Ordinance 7384. This is the plat that was attached to the ordinance at that time. So that original plat was approved without meeting a couple of those requirements, which they are allowed to do through the City Council, and that's how it was approved. So now we're coming to a question that came up where one property owner was asking to move the lot line between two properties. Both the property owners have signed off on this request. That boundary adjustment plat, when that adjustment is being made, it's supposed to only be allowed to be adjusted administratively with my approval if they meet everything in the code. So if there are a number of things that they don't meet, it goes through this larger process and goes to the City Council for a final approval. What they're requesting to do is to transfer ownership of approximately 2,363 square feet. It is the area where the dashed line is where the current property line is between, and they want to move it to the solid line of where the red and the blue lines are kind of on top of each other. I'm going to go into more detail about what they're asking for, but that would move land from the one lot to the other. So under our staff analysis, we were looking at a couple different things. The one is related to the minimum lot size. Although it didn't meet and was approved without meeting the minimum lot width and the average lot width, the thing that's going to happen with this is that all the lots had met at least a minimum 15,000 square foot. In the transfer of this between these two properties, they will no longer, one of the lots will no longer meet the minimum 15,000 square foot requirement, which again is something that you are able to administratively approve and ask the council to approve as a variation to the plat. When doing that, it simply means that that particular property will have a slightly smaller total square footage allowed to build. And they just have to have that understanding that that is what they're agreeing to when that lot line moves. So you can see with the lot line, the 614 Grant Court will go down to 12,672 square feet. 617 Grant Court will go up to 17,635 square feet. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer in regards to the other things that are not being met when this plat, should this plat get approved with the boundary adjustment. There were some elements of structures that did not meet the requirements when they were built in the 1980s. So there's a couple things that we're approving that were not, that didn't meet the code at the time. And then one of the things that's going to be amended with this lot line will change yet another setback to not meet the requirements of the code. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on those. The first is that the detached garage at 617 is slightly over the front lot line. And it was built at the time when it was approved. I don't know whether it was just built accidentally over the line, which is probably what happened. The same thing with the front of the house at 614 Grant Court. So the minimum required is 30 feet. So I kind of highlighted in red those two areas that currently don't meet the requirements of the code. In addition, there are 3 setbacks that are current side yard setbacks for the properties. One of them is I'm going to do it over here. The northern setback from the existing house is required to be 10 feet and it's only 9.12 feet currently. It's not going to be impacted by the adjustment of the plat, but it is something that's in non-conformance now, which when we approve a new plat like this, they cannot come back to the Board of Adjustment and ask for variations based on these elements because they're creating this new plat. They're establishing a new plat and things that are coming in would need to meet the current code. In addition, there is another corner that is too close that will now actually meet the code, which is currently at 7 feet to the current property line. And once the property line moves, it will go to 18 feet. So one of them will remain not in conformance. One of them will come into conformance. And then the last one that's going to no longer be in conformance is that right now the property does not meet the 10-foot setback from the property line to the corner of the house and the northern wall of the house at 614 Grant Court. It will go even less into conformance at 2.22 feet from the property line. And then just to identify, so I highlighted the existing structures in green. They do have there's a concrete drive that goes to a front entry garage at 614. There's another driveway that was currently straddling the lot lines that provides access to 617's detached garage. Even with this moving of the lot line, technically the way that our code reads today, you're supposed to have 22 feet for your turning radius to get out of a side entry garage. It's going to get more into compliance, but it still won't meet that full amount that we normally require for a side entry garage. I know that's a lot of variations and things that are different. Any particular questions about any of those?
That existing lot line on either side, there's an access easement.
Yes.
Looks like that's gonna stay. So does that mean the guy on the south can just go park on that neighbor's driveway? all the
So
time?
this was a preliminary plat. So the recommendation was going to be that they repeal or remove that access easement as a part of the plat. But we hadn't gotten to that point yet. We wanted to first get through the first steps of you go to Plan Commission first. This is just a preliminary. When they go for the final plat, which will go for which would go to City Council next month, we will clarify and clean up any other either easements that need to be vacated, any new easements that need to be established, because they currently do have a easement that was established along that shared lot line to utility companies that is not currently being used by utility companies. So we do need to address those two. But at this point in time, we're just focusing on what would you recommend to the City Council about whether you would recommend the boundary adjustment with these variations to the plat.
And I guess my other question. So right now, both lots are over 15,000 feet, but
Correct.
you're gonna make the ones smaller than that. That seems like a more significant variance to me than the ones that exist now. So it seems to me like you're trading something bad for something worse, so to speak. So I guess I'm just curious how you see it. How would you respond to that?
So I would have you ask the applicants.
I don't think I've ever been involved in proving a non-conforming lot from a conforming one. I'm trying to figure out why are we doing this? What's the end game on?
So when an applicant requests for something like this, a boundary adjustment, we give them all the options. One option is to remain with the shared easement for a driveway. We do have the other option that they can go through the plating process and request these variances from the Plan Commission and the council. So we give them the opportunities. It's up to them as to which way they would prefer to proceed. And they did prefer to proceed in this manner.
As a city, though, we won't approve somebody to build on a lot that's not conforming. And now we're trying to say it's okay to have a non-conforming lot. That's part of it.
We're just moving a line on paper, though.
So what is established, however,
You're setting a precedent.
no, you're not. So this is a very specific to this particular plat. So if you are coming through with a specific plat and you want to establish variances, so it's been a while since you've had one of these, but we had one where they had an existing historic accessory structure that was too close to the line. We usually established in the ordinance, you can keep that structure just like anyone else could keep a structure. When they come in for anything else, one, they can't come and get variances to the code based on these configurations because they've established their own hardship essentially by moving this line. They've created very narrow setbacks. But we also usually put in the ordinance, which I'll get to that point, that they do have to now meet everything in the code. So they have the understanding then that anything new that comes in, any additions that come in have to meet the current setbacks, that the smaller lot size will have to meet the same requirements that the floor area ratio is based on that lot size. So if they wanted to expand on that house, they need to meet the current setbacks and also meet the minimum or the maximum. You can't get any larger than the square footage allowed per the lot size. So we're not allowing them to build a really large house and establishing it and saying you have 15,000 square feet and you can build on that, but now we're taking some of the land away and you can build bigger. The house is already in conformance with the smaller lot size and still could have additions built on it. So it's something we've done in the past. We've had a few of these. Again, they're pretty rare and far between, but we've had them happen before where houses are established, lot lines are moved to accommodate something that might be unusual. In this case, the way the driveway is configured and driving onto someone else's lot. So the two applicants have asked for this.
I remember those. I just don't remember putting one of them into a non-conforming lot.
We have had some where there have been some, probably it's been more than 10 years ago. So there are a couple that were before my time.
So, and maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but your recommendation mentions any future developments on the properties. So God forbid if the house at 614 burns down, they have to, anything they rebuild, they have to move. They can't reuse the existing
Correct.
foundations or whatever.
Correct.
Okay, so anything put back. And what would the case be right now if that happened?
The case would be the same
same,
right now,
because
is that if it's
well-
more than a certain percentage that is damaged by fire or something else, you cannot rebuild as it was. You have to come into conformance with the code.
I mean, I guess you'd have to move the house further to the south now than you would have, but you still would have had to move the house away from that lot line
Correct.
because it doesn't meet now. Okay.
Correct.
Is it still gonna be buildable? I guess that's kind of where I was heading. Like,
Those lots have more than enough room to do additions on both houses with meeting the code.
the minimum lot size in the city is what?
Well, it depends on the zoning district. So we've got 7,500 for the A4, 10,000 for the A3, 15,000 for the A2, and 20,000 for the A1. Just know that even though there is a 15,000 square foot minimum for the A2, there are A2 zoned lots around the city that don't meet that minimum requirement because in 1956, when they overlaid the zoning on top of it, they put things to the closest lot that they might have been. So there are quite a few lots where, you know, someone has a 7,500 square foot minimum in an A4 and they're only a 6,000 square foot lot. So we have quite a few. This isn't like a very unusual instance. There are quite a few around the city that don't meet the minimum lot size.
But these houses were built in 1986.
You are correct. You are completely correct.
So,
So, yes, but again, in 1986, they did approve them not meeting the minimum lot widths or the minimum average lot widths.
So for this zoning section, I guess my question, and somebody already asked it, but when you reduce the southern lot from 15,000 to 12 and change, if there's a desire to, sell this lot and rebuild from scratch, that's not possible, right? In this zoning district?
It's completely possible. So you can tear down, you just have to meet the current codes. So the current code would be the floor area ratio based on that lot size, as well as the setbacks. The setbacks will stay the same for being in an A2. So they would have to meet the 10-foot setback from either side. They'd have to follow the 30-foot setback that's established on the plat from the front, and they'd have to meet the rear setback, but they'd still have the ability to rebuild.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that you said it was minimum lot size that was 15,000 for that zone, but that was A3, right?
Well, no. This zoning district is a minimum of 15,000 square feet. You have the ability as the Plan Commission to recommend to the council to approve a lot size that might not meet the minimum through this platting process.
I'm following that for the existing piece. I'm having a hard time with it for a future development, because wouldn't it not meet the minimum requirement then? I know you just said it would based on floor area ratio, but that's disconnected for me.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, again, like right now in our A4 zoning district, I can find dozens of lots that don't currently meet the 7,500 square foot minimum lot size. There's 6,000, 6,500, 6,800, 7,000 square foot lots. That does not make it not buildable. Anything can be buildable, but those smaller size lots can only be built with a new structure or even additions to their structures, meeting the minimum floor area ratio, meeting the setbacks of the zoning district. All of those other things still have to be met. Even if their lot may be non-conforming, it's still considered a buildable lot.
Okay. Any other questions?
So I have recommendations for the plat. This isn't officially a public hearing, but if you would like to hear from the applicants, I know at least one, I think two of them are online, if you had specific questions regarding this. But I do have my recommendations, which essentially is all future development shall meet the existing municipal code requirements, and the establishment of this plat precludes them from obtaining variances in regard to this, a variance to the floor area ratio or a variance to the setbacks to the Board of Adjustment, because they've established lots that don't meet certain key requirements.
Yeah, I see no reason not to let them speak if they care to.
So for those that are online, if you do want to raise your hand, if you wish to speak, I can move you over and give you the ability to speak. No one's
No? Okay.
raising hands.
Okay. So, all right, no hard feelings. Okay, so you need to go through the recommendation.
So the recommendation is that all provisions of the city code shall apply except as expressly modified in the ordinance. All future development at the subject properties shall meet the existing municipal code requirements. That would be the existing requirements at the time that someone comes in to do something. So sometimes if we make code changes, I always remind people, we don't specifically say it's this particular set of setbacks or other things. It's when they come in to build, they have to meet the current code. The establishment of this plat precludes current and future owners from obtaining variances from the municipal code at the subject properties for these particular setbacks and floor area ratio or minimum lot sizes.
And Mara, you've kind of listed, they're kind of similar to our 5 factors for CUPs, but you've listed some factors per section 50.060.
Yes.
Do you care to?
There's not really a set of factors, and I apologize, I forgot to bring my zoning code with me. It essentially says that it's related to particular hardships. For example, the fact that there are existing homes on the 2 properties, they were built not meeting some of the lot sizes, that there is a shared driveway that was put, through that doesn't meet certain minimum requirements and overlaps onto the properties. It basically gives you the ability that if there would cause undue problems, that you do have the ability to give some flexibility and then allow the city council to further give those variations of the plat itself. It's not giving variances to the zoning code.
Or includes future owners. Has there been a case where someone has purchased a property not knowing they couldn't proceed with a variance? Have you ever had to tell somebody that? I mean, is that something you have to disclose when you sell a property? I'm unique to include a future.
Well, I will tell you, there is all sorts of law that says if you are purchasing property with the intent of getting a variance, that is not the basis for obtaining one. Obviously, that doesn't preclude somebody who buys it down the road who decides they need to request one. But that's the law is pretty clear that is not a basis for obtaining or having a right to a variance.
I haven't specifically had anyone who's come in with something like that. I have had people who have come in, built something, and then asked for a variance because they now can't build something else. And we've had to deny them, which is a different situation. But I have people call in and I usually try to remind them when I review what they're doing. I let them know either that it was a newer plat. I talk to them about what things they can and cannot do with their property. So I have talked with people about a couple of these. I actually had someone who had a similar plat. They created a lot line. There was an accessory structure still there and it wasn't going to meet the zoning setbacks. And I have someone coming in now finally wanting to build a house on the front of the property. And I let them know about not having variances and things like that, but we were able to show them all the ways that they can build.
I mean, variances is a whole nother board and
Mhm.
it's a judicial kind of situation. This is not a variance. This is a moving of a line, which is creating an opportunity for that. Variances are practical difficulties, like your property has a creek in it or something like that. I don't see that here either.
So do note there's a couple different sections in the code, and in one of them it says plats prior to 1956. So that's why we established that if you've created the plat prior to that it's after 1956. Now, if there is still a land configuration that might cause an issue, that is still something that they can ask for a variance for related to the slope or configuration of the land. But if it's related to the fact that the lot is an unusual shape, they've established that unusual shape lot through this platting request. So that's sort of where we've explained to people that if there is still something related to a slope, a creek, some other configuration, that they still can get variances for those.
Right. This is a boundary adjustment.
Yes.
This is not a variance.
Yes.
Okay. We wish to close.
You make a
Motion
motion?
closed.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. So we close that and I guess that adjourns our regular session.
You're in executive session, so you can discuss the 2 items.
Okay. 23 PC09 Webster Pres Shared Space Initiative. Any comments?
Don't have any problem.
I supported the last CUP saying something along the lines of, I think they're a great asset to the community. This fella came up here, he says he wants this consistent with their mission to be open and outgoing. I wrote that down. So I would think that helps them keep that building occupied, doing what they've been doing. I'm all for that.
And if it makes it easier to,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd rather do it once than.
yeah, do it once and not have to do it again.
So what were you mentioned that though, Mara, too. So they're in the process of thinking about trying to piece together some stuff, or they're just gonna keep going as CUPs until they need to do something differently?
No, this would allow
This
them.
This is that combination.
This is that combination.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. So like the next one that comes in, I know they had a stained glass artist who wanted to do classes.
So then they're just. baked
That
in.
would be the next one, wouldn't need another CUP.
Gotcha.
That particular person ended up going to another location that allowed it automatically and didn't need a CUP.
Right.
They still stayed in Webster, but they went to another location. In this case, it will remove CUPs needing to be done for every single tenant.
Perfect. Got it.
Okay, well, we need to discuss the factors. So I'll read them. You tell me what you think. Substantially increase traffic hazards or congestion.
No.
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 Substantially increase fire hazards.
No.
No.
Adversely affect the character of the neighborhood.
No.
Adversely affect the general welfare of the community.
No.
That's benefit. And
No.
overtax public utilities. Sorry.
No.
No. All right. I have a motion.
Make a motion to approve P23 PC 09.
Second,
All those in, should we just go to roll call?
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
go
let's
straight
just
to
do
roll,
that.
roll
Okay.
call.
Yes.
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 Grace,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Maddie,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well.
Okay.
Very good. Next item, 23 PC 10, boundary adjustment plat. We had a lot of discussion on this. Any additional thoughts?
I guess my thought is we're creating, well, first of all, I'm just uncomfortable with the 2-foot setback at any time. So you're making a non-conforming even more non-conforming, and I'm not comfortable with that. You made an odd shaped lot even odder, if that's possible. And I do kind of think that it's kind of precedent setting, even though you say we may have done it before. I can't ever remember a situation in where we moved a lot line that didn't clean up a non-conforming. And so I'm not in favor of creating more non-conformities.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, I think I used something almost exactly like I go from bad to worse. is the way I put it. If I had to guess, and the applicants didn't speak, if I had to guess, it was clean up that driveway. That's why I asked too about the guy, could he go park on there with that easement? If I had to guess. So I certainly appreciate what we're saying, but it is still non-conforming either way. So we're not creating a non-conforming use. As far as the existing driveway goes, I think this would be a superior in that regard. That would clean up that mess. I do hope the guy at 614, and it's not my business, and I get the matter. I hope the guy at 614 is getting a hefty payout on it. So yeah, I hear you, and I have those reservations too. But I do think it does provide some benefits as far as cleaning up that access easement and the driveway. So it's not all bad. And at some point, it's kind of their business to me. So why?
Well, I mean, I could be using it however they see fit at this point.
I think my
Anyway,
only
but-
concern was into the future. And, you know, I've asked that question in the regular session. Both property owners are happy with the proposed path forward, so I have zero concerns from that perspective. Obviously, the southern property into the future has a much larger impact potentially, depending on what may or may not want to be developed. That's my only really concern or consideration in this request.
But they still have room to be able to put additions on if that's what they want to do. So it's not like they're stuck right where they are.
I theoretically, but I mean, now you've got to drive, how are you gonna put an addition on? You have 2 feet to get to your backyard.
Would be their problem.
I mean, that's my point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You sell your house to somebody and now they have no way to, I would have to look at it more, but I think we just need to think about whoever a future owner might be. If there's a reasonable way to maintain and improve the property, then cool. But, if there's going to be severe impact, I think we should just consider that.
Is that a long slope? I mean, is that a rear yard or a side yard?
Can you speak into the microphone a little bit more? I just didn't hear your question.
The long leg on 6-1.
Four.
So I have,
That makes a huge impact on the building area.
so sorry, the line that's moving is
The one adjacent to the property owner to the southwest. I guess what my question is.
it's a side yard.
Side yard. So like when I look at the site plan, like there's a massive amount of space to put an addition on that house.
Yeah, you can access, so for 614, you can access the backyard from the southern side of the house. There's a pretty large setback from the property at that point. It's probably better to look at this one. So they do have all of this, and that's a side yard. That's a side yard right through there.
Yeah, much more helpful. Thank you.
Actually, this allows both houses to expand like.
So the Crestwood lot line is that's the back.
That's the rear
That's
yard.
the rear yard.
Correct.
It's not creating something that's not buildable.
Correct.
It's still buildable.
Well, yeah, it's still buildable. Yeah.
But
That alleviates my concern. Thank you.
Well, and my other question is, how did they build that concrete drive over the lot line anyway? Huh?
First built in 86. Property in the south built in 88. It may have been meant to be a shared driveway. And then the second development, right? Yeah, the second development, then built their own front entry.
And when they bought it, they knew that it was there.
Maybe not.
There's an existing access easement along that, because it does go on to the neighbor's property.
That's what makes me think that it was a potential shared driveway in the original concept, because of why else put the shared.
they've got working room in the easement.
I think it's an improvement.
I'd slice it right back, but again, I think there, as long as everyone's going in with their eyes open.
Yeah.
And
That's
your-
why I
your
worry about
point, yeah,
future people, because
right.
if you don't know what, you're just purchaser, buyer of the home, and Joe Schmo. 10 years down the road, you find out you need to do something you don't know you can. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I mean,
this
this is. You're also creating, you're reporting bad behavior too. I mean.
I'm a 2 feet.
Well, you're getting it. This is an inherited situation, most likely. I mean, we don't have the dates of purchase of the homes and the dates of every improvement, but it's not uncommon for there to be an easement and a shared driveway in our municipality. So, if, 2 property owners want to correct for that to simplify their maintenance, I personally don't see any issue with that.
It's, I think like Tony was saying, the 2-foot setback. That's barely me to you.
Yeah, but there's not gonna be a house there. I can get fire hazard.
No.
Not fire hazard.
So it's a driveway, yeah, right. Okay, any other comments? Yeah, so we don't see any, I think we've talked about what other potential adverse impacts there are. So I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and second for 23 PC 10 boundary adjustment plat. We'll do a roll call on this as well.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
Just Grace,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Maddie,
No.
and I vote yes. So that's 7-2.
Yes.
Carries. Very good. Thanks for great discussion.
Other business.
I don't think I have any other business at this time. I will look again at my calendar and see when the next deadline is for next month's plan commission. I feel like it is either next Monday or it was this week. I'll have to look again. But if we get nothing in, there will be no meeting for October.
Okay.
And I really haven't talked with anyone lately that's needed a CUP or rezoning or anything. I've been working with a lot of people where we've been able to find buildings and places for them to go in without needing anything special, which has been great.
What's the status of that other CUP we approved next to the bank on Lockwood? It was supposed to be a coffee shop.
Oh, that one wasn't a CUP. Oh, that was a CUP added to their PC planned commercial.
Oh.
I know that they called in recently for some inspections and I think they had to renew their permits because they had expired,
That's
but
a
they
new
are,
building, right?
they're doing some work in there. I did get a business license in for it and I got a sign permit in for it for the coffee shop.
Look it up.
23W.
23W.
Yep, 23W.
The name of the.
Because it's 23 West Lockwood.
Oh.
Lord.
Yeah.
Denied.
The coffee.
About in the Rolling Ridge building.
Rolling Ridge, I got sign permits in for them. They're finishing up some things with their business, with their building permits for the coffee shop to go in there.
Okay.
Yep, I'm finalizing some things with them right now.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconds.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you
Good
at
night.
Jazz Fest.
Thanks. Bye.
Now,
Thank you.
minutes
See-
and I